This afternoon, I am pleased to welcome two very successful women who excel in their chosen fields and who we are also privileged to call a part of our Fifth Avenue Presbyterian Church family. Julie Chen Moonves, I discovered this morning, is a native New Yorker, born and raised in Queens.
That gives away my age.
She is the host of the CBS show Big Brother, and you may also recognize her from another CBS show, The Talk. Julie
Yes,
very graciously.
but I'm not there anymore.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Sorry, I just
No, you're fine. Somebody turn off Julie's mic. Julie very graciously accepted our request to come and interview another one of our Fifth Avenue Presbyterian Church family, Min Jin Lee. Min is a best-selling writer and author of the book Pachinko, which I hope many of you had a chance to read this fall because it was on Scott's summer reading list, which I know you all read all of the books on Scott's summer reading list. We are thrilled that Min is here today to share a little bit about how her faith has influenced her work as an author. So thank you to you both for being here today.
Well, hello, good morning, welcome. Am I loud enough? Not a problem I've ever had. Are you a loud talker?
I can be.
Can everyone hear Min?
Are you guys good?
Okay, if you can't hear, just be like, I can't hear. Because then what's the point of coming here, right? If I could just open this interview with Min in prayer. Do you want to say anything? You want to open
No, go ahead.
Or okay.
No, you.
Okay.
I trust you. Yeah.
Father God, thank you so much for bringing us together here today to talk to Min about her work, her faith, her walk with Christ. I just ask that you align all our hearts with everyone's heart in this room. You align our hearts with your heart, and just please guide this interview, guide my words, and just thank you for this opportunity. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, let's get started. First of all, I want to just explain my interviewing style today. It's unusual. I've never done this interviewing style, even though I've done interviewing my whole life. I'm going to follow the Larry King method. I love Larry King. May he be resting with the Lord, because you didn't have to know much about who he was interviewing, because he asked questions that he was just curious. So I didn't want to study up too much on Min. So some of the questions are going to sound just very, just follow me here. All right, first of all, Min, am I okay like this? I'm more comfortable this way. Min, where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Seoul, South Korea in 1968. I came to the U.S. in 1976 when I was 7 years old. I'm going to be turning 54 next month, and I know it's hard to believe because I'm so youthful looking, but I am.
Did you grow up with faith and God in your world? Like, who are your parents? Tell us your story. Did you know God as a kid?
You know, it's interesting. I think about God all the time. And my grandfather was a Presbyterian minister. So as you can imagine, I grew up in the church, and one of the conditions that my mother set forth for my father to marry, because he wanted to marry her on the job interview that she had gone to. Yeah, my mother's basically sexually harassed into marrying him. I am a product of some legal action that never happened. So my mother went on a job interview. He asked her to marry him, and she thought he was insane. But then gradually, she felt kind of interested in him enough to say, I will marry you if you become a Christian. Oh. I know. So I grew up in that household.
Wait, so your dad,
Says a lot, right?
They stayed married, right?
And she's really attractive, so I think he was kind of like, all right. I'll go to Jesus for this. You know, like, I don't know.
So when she said, I'll marry you if you become a Christian, have you ever talked to your dad about, like, was it kind of like, he felt Holy Spirit, like yes, or he's like, okay, I just really want to marry her? And then did he finally come into Christ on his own without this kind of like deal?
You know, I write fiction, which means that my job is to study human motivation. So when I think about character, I really think about the uncertainty of what I can perceive, what I know, what I can study, versus what is the mystery of that person. So even my students, because I teach at college, I think after the entire semester where they have told me all of their secrets, I'll know maybe like 1% of who they are. So to answer your question, I feel like my father, when he agreed to the offer,
That you can't.
right, because she's attractive, and I still think they find each other attractive, which I think is adorable, right? So we have all these stereotypes about marriage of a certain era, and I think people don't forget that if you're not visually nourishing or sexually attractive to one another, it's really hard to keep it going. So, but I also think there was a lot of other complications involved in my father's trauma as a refugee. So my father was a war refugee, and he had come from a very upper middle class family, or so he says. I can't prove it. Like I wasn't, you know, like he's from North Korea, so I know nothing beyond whatever he's told me. I can't verify. And I say that because I'm trained in history. So if you tell me I went to, let's say, Amherst College where I teach, I can call the registrar's office. I can check, right? And because I do check everything so carefully, it's very hard for me. So then, anyway, so he allegedly comes from an upper middle class family, and he lost everything when he came down during the war. And my mother came from a very respectable family. So in a way, like he could have said, yeah, she's really cute, but she also went to a fancy college, and she comes from a really good family.
South Korea, your
In
mom?
South Korea.
Okay.
Thank you. And she's from Busan, South Korea. So I think in a way, his attraction to her wasn't just like, oh, she's a pretty girl. I think he wanted to have that sort of reclamation of class status, social acceptance. And because he was a war refugee, he couldn't like bring forth anything except for the fact that in a society which is very hierarchical, very much about like where are your people from, right? So for his alliance with my mother in a way, I think was a lot about capturing family. So I want to say yes because, you know, he felt the Holy Spirit, but I feel like that would be unprovable.
Okay, and by the way, only he can answer that, so that's probably not a...
And also, I want to tell you, even if he said it, it's, again, unprovable. Right? I mean, I'm a New Yorker, so, and so are you, you know.
All right, I want to get back to you. So 1976, you're 4 years old. You're
Seven.
Sorry.
You're so sweet. No, I was 7 when I was 1976, yeah.
Okay, you're 7 years old, 1976. Your family moves here from South Korea to where?
Queens, New York.
Queens, where are Queens?
Girl, we're like, you know.
Queens?
Elmhurst.
Elmhurst, of course.
Yeah.
Lucy Liu also, by the way, Elmhurst.
Who is a friend of mine.
Okay. All right, so you have an older sister, yes. Like, okay, so it's your parents, you, who else? Who's in your family? I know you have an older sister, right?
I have an older sister and a younger sister. I'm the middle child.
Okay.
Highly functional.
And so do your parents send you to Catholic school in Elmhurst at this point? What's your schooling?
Oh no, they had no money. They had no money. So it was PS 102.
Okay.
And I went from 2nd grade until 6th, and then I went to junior high school 73, William Cooper, junior high school 73. And then afterwards, I went to the Bronx High School of Science, the greatest high school in the world.
My sister who went there is also, she said, that's right, middle daughter of 3 girls. So, as an aside, my sister's reading Pachinko, and then she's like, oh, yeah, middle daughter, 3, Asian, okay, I relate to her. Bronx Science, oh, I relate to her. Became a lawyer, right? Wait, so my sister is, she's like.
What is your sister's name?
She was in class with your older sister. Victoria Chen is her name.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait till I tell her.
So this little aside is just to show everyone, like you think you might be, you know, different or not aligned, but we are, look, we all look different, sound different, vote different, speak different. But I think there's more that unites us than divides us, and I hope that comes across today in this interview. But okay, getting back to you.
But I want to look like Julie.
No, okay, side note. No. All right, so I'm the youngest of 3 girls. Vicky's the middle one. My oldest sister, who has a great sense of humor, she says, you know, you look like one person like this. She goes, but nobody knows when you take off the hair and the makeup and the lashes and everything, and you look like, okay, no one repeat this. All right, I'm putting it out there. She said, you look like a Chinese food delivery boy. So trust me, I'll give you the name of who to call it. Anyhow.
Well, I'm convinced, I was persuaded, yeah.
Back to you, okay. So 7 years old, 1976, public school, then Bronx High School of Science. And is your family going to church during these years?
I went to Newtown Presbyterian, the first Presbyterian Church of Newtown in Queens, and Pastor Charles Sorg was our minister. And so I went to this essentially Queens multiracial church. And my parents really believed that we should go to an American church because they wanted us to learn about America. So that's what I did. And I even taught Sunday school.
As your parents wanted you to learn about America, was Korean spoken at home to your parents?
We were told to speak English at home. So I spoke in English, my parents spoke in English and in Korean. And the upside is that I speak English like I could read the news. I mean, I don't look like her, but I could read the news.
I'll give you the number. You're going to look like Angelina Jolie. Okay.
No, I'd rather look like you.
Okay, so then how's your Korean today?
My Korean is okay. It's not great spoken. It's pretty decent in terms of comprehension.
Meaning when you hear other people speak it, or can you read it?
So when I interview people. But in terms of reading and writing, it's very, very poor. So one of the things that I did when I was in college is I really thought, and at the time at Yale, Korean was not taught. So I led a student campaign and raised $1 million to have Korean taught at Yale. And the irony, thank you. The irony is that it was taught the year after I graduated. No, because God has a wicked sense of humor. We all know this. Exactly. But I was just there 2 weeks ago to celebrate the 30th anniversary. And I went there because I wanted the kids to know that activism is actually effective. And we should be activists in our own little way. So, but going back to the language thing, yeah, I get shit all.
We can just take that in the edit.
No, my husband said to me, you can't swear. You can't swear at church. But this is not the
You're human, okay? We all are. Like, who is any of us to judge anyone? So that was a funny moment. So, all right. So you go to Yale. What's your major?
History.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And what was it stirring in your heart? Like, I'm going to, get a BA from Yale, study history. I'm going to graduate and do what, did you think?
I wanted to have this really glamorous life in New York. I wanted to be well off.
Why? What influenced you? Like, what were the shows you were watching?
No, I just was poor. I was poor. So I was like, I don't want to be poor. And so I thought, I'll be a lawyer. So I wanted to read and write and all those things, but I didn't actually think people made money being a writer, and I was right. I mean, I'm doing fine, thank you, right now. But I really didn't have any intention of, becoming an artist. So then my family, but I thought, I tried to do a whole bunch of things in college, but then I just didn't know how to open the doors. Like when I meet my college students now, they know so much about the world, and I'm going, how did you know that?
Internet.
Yeah, no, you're right. And also they have parents who are hooked. Like my parents were not hooked. So I thought, I know, I'll go to law school because I got in and I'm good at school.
Where'd you go to law school?
Georgetown.
Okay, did you go straight from Yale to Georgetown, or did you take a gap year? What'd you do?
No, I went straight. I mean, I got in, I went straight. And then I did it, I graduated, I eventually passed the bar. I failed the bar the first time.
See, and look, you can become Min Jin Lee. All right, go ahead.
But I'm not a lawyer now.
No, but you're a best-selling author, and then, you know.
No, I'm okay. But it's interesting because I did practice law for 2 years. I was a really, really good lawyer.
What kind of law did you do?
A corporate. So you really want me on your team because I will do like every piece of document review. I will argue very, very hard for your case. However, I was so good that I would be put on every deal by every partner because they can count on me. And if there are any lawyers here, any partners here, you know what I mean? Like you want that grunt. Like I was that grunt, low-level lawyer. So it was like this pie eating contest, and I'm using a New England metaphor. I would win every pie eating contest, and they would give you more frickin' pie.
Oh, so you did that corporate law for 2 years right out of Georgetown?
I did, and then I quit because I was like, this is stupid.
Were you just because burnout?
I think it wasn't really well conceived. Like I had these, again, because I was stupid and unhooked, and I didn't know anybody in publishing. Like I thought, oh, I know, Chris, my husband who's here.
Time out. By unhooked, you mean not connected, not wired.
Not connected, and like I didn't know enough about the world to understand what it would mean to be a fiction writer and to kind of write the books that I wanted to write. So my husband and I had $15,000 saved in the bank. We owned a teeny tiny apartment in the Upper East Side. And I think at the time our mortgage was like, I don't know, $1,200 plus our maintenance fee. And like New Yorkers understand this.
No kids? Kids at this point?
And no kids.
Okay.
And I wasn't gonna have any kids. So I figured, oh, I'll write a book and I'll be able to make the $83,000 a year that I was making as a lawyer in about a year or two. Like,
And then what happened?
you know, I did not do that because it took me 12 years to publish my first novel.
Wow. So during the 12 years you were trying to publish your first novel, was any money coming into the household, or just your husband and you were working?
It was my husband, and he was making money, but then we had all these financial crises because my in-laws, who both passed away, like had these like catastrophic financial situation, and my husband is an only child. So he was dealing with all of this, I was dealing with it, and then it was not easy. We had some very serious trials. Yeah, and also I kept on thinking, oh, I shouldn't have quit being a lawyer because my friends are making partner and they're doing very well, thank you. And I was like, oh.
So you have what sounds like those were your wilderness years. Right?
I'm still in the wilderness.
Okay.
I mean, not financially, but I really feel like I'm still in the wilderness. Pray for me.
Do you want to say why you feel that way?
I find, you know, it's really funny. When I first published the book for Free Food for Millionaires, my friend who's very, very wise, my friend Harold, said to me, failure is easier than success. And I was like, huh, what does that even mean? All I've done is taste failure. It's like, oh.
All right, so
But now I feel like I am more successful as a writer. And absolutely, Harold was right. Like, I don't understand most of what's going on in my life. How people understand me, what they want. Like today, Jubilee. Oh my gosh, where's Scott? Where's Scott? Yeah, Jubilee. Yeah. So I've been thinking about Jubilee forever because I am very steeped in the Bible. And Jubilee is hard. Like, I'm so glad you talked about how you can't do Jubilee, and people in practice didn't do Jubilee, and they bailed on Jubilee. Because, I mean, if Sabbath is hard, like if we can't do Sabbath, imagine a whole year. And then not only like being nice to ourselves, saying like, oh, you don't owe me $1 million. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Right? So I think about this all the time. So as a fairly successful writer, I every day think, oh, I left that undone. I left that undone. I made this person unhappy. So I don't feel this sense of rest. So that's my wilderness. So therefore, you should pray for me.
Well, here's what I'm sensing. Because you always feel like you're in the wilderness, and because you never feel you're satisfying everyone in your life, whether it's your publisher or this or that, that's why you're successful. So.
But what a terrible thing to tell children, though, right?
Well, do you have kids
Isn't that a
now?
terrible thing to tell kids, like, oh, you could never rest, you'll always be anxious, you'll always be crazy? I mean, like...
That's our Asian code, baby. No, I'm kidding.
No, I don't believe that, because I have met Asians who are totally chill.
Are they successful? No, I'm kidding. Do they write to their mothers? Okay. Wait, do you have children now?
I do, my son is here.
Well, hello, son. Where are you, son? Hi, Sam. Sam? How old are you, Sam? I'm 24. 24. Okay, so Sam is your only child.
He's my beloved. He's the light of my life.
All right, let's talk about that. Sam, I can ask anything, right?
No. Well, I mean, no.
Okay, all right, but you don't know what I'm gonna ask.
No, but you can ask, but I can decline to comment.
Correct. Absolutely. Say, that's for private. That's family business. All right, anything I ask and you don't want to answer, you go, that's family business. Right. And I pivot, okay? So you said earlier you didn't think you wanted children.
That's right.
So how did Sam come to be?
Well, I had a miscarriage. So I thought I didn't want kids. I made it serious really fast. Sorry. I was married for 4 years, and my husband is totally a calm human being.
Calm human being?
He's
calm.
very calm. He's very thoughtful.
He's not Asian, because I just saw Sam.
No, he is Asian.
What? 100% Asian?
He's 50%.
Oh, I saw him go, okay, yeah. We Asians can recognize this stuff. It's a whole nother Gatto series something. I'll be back for that next week. Go ahead.
So he's half Japanese and he's half white American. There he is, Chris. And he's a great human being. So then so when we married, I said to him, I don't want to have kids. Is that okay with you? And he said, I'm fine. I'm fine.
You should have pulled, was he already a Christian? You were
Yes.
Oh,
But he wasn't a Presbyterian and he is now.
Oh, and you didn't even have to pull.
I got one for the team.
Your finder's fee is in the mail.
Thank you.
Or you could have pulled out what your mom did. You did. Nah.
No, I don't. No, she's really attractive. Yeah.
I got to see a picture of your mom. All right, so, sorry, 4 years you're married, but you originally told Chris, your husband, I don't want kids. Is that okay? And he at first said yes.
Yeah, he's fine. But I was married when I was 24
Where'd you meet him?
at a party.
What does he do for a living?
He's retired now.
Okay, so was he a lawyer? Like, you're 24, you meet him party.
No, I was 22 when I met him.
Okay, you're 22, so you're probably in a law school party in Georgetown?
No, I went to a benefit in New York for an Asian American theater. My friend dared me to ask a guy to dance. And I was bring it on. So I walked over to Chris. I thought he was so attractive. And I said, do you want to dance? And he said, sure. So then we danced, and then he left. I'm skipping a part.
Family business.
But no. You could YouTube this. There's a conversation about this
Okay.
somewhere else. But I'm skipping a bunch of things. And then later on, I was called back to New York City because I was in law school in D.C. And I was asked to come back for a job interview. I was in, back then it was called National Airport, which is now Reagan Airport. And I had some time to kill because my flight was canceled. So I looked up where Chris worked. He was working at Smith Barney. He was working in Japan sales. And I said, hi, this is Min Jin Lee. I had asked you to dance 2 weeks ago. I'm going to be in town tomorrow for a job interview, and I have a few hours before my flight. Do you want to have dinner? Yeah, I know. I was so ballsy. But I was 22.
You don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, thank you. So then I got myself a husband.
At 24.
I was 22, and then he did ask me to marry him at 23. So we were engaged, and then we're still married. It's almost 30 years this year.
Congratulations. Okay, so you at first say, I don't want kids, and he was okay with that.
Yeah, he was fine. And then I changed my mind, like around year 4, thinking, well, Chris is totally calm, and I'm not. So maybe we'll be okay if he is the parent.
Did you tell him that was your thinking when you said, guess what, I want a child?
Well, I think Chris was always open to the idea because he's very good with kids.
Why, because you saw him with like nieces, nephews or something?
Well, I mean, if you hang out with Chris, you're like, he's just good with people.
Okay.
And with kids, obviously. And I really, really love children, but I just didn't think I could commit to being a mother. I mean, all the parents here understand what it means. And I think that in a way, I was very mature for my age because I don't think you should proceed into parenting or marriage blindly. I mean, I guess you kind of have to because if you really understood it, you wouldn't do it. It's kind of like pregnancy. Like if you really understand, you're going like, oh, this is stupid. Like it's science fiction. Like I can't believe I'm going to be the host of another human being and my life will be ruined forever.
So you change your mind because your husband Chris, very calm, we can do this. Mm-hmm. You mentioned a miscarriage.
Yes, and then I had a miscarriage. And then I was like, oh, I really do want to have a kid. I hate the idea of not having a child with Chris.
Say that again, you hate the idea of what?
I hated the idea. After post-miscarriage, I realized like, oh, I think that if we were to have a child, I would be in a different state of mind. So I was one of those people kind of like lost led to gratitude. Not the best way to learn lessons.
Say that again. You are of the state of mind that if I don't have a child with Chris, that what?
That would have been really sad to me. That would have been very upsetting to me.
I see.
And then we did get pregnant immediately after the miscarriage. So, and then there's Sam.
Okay. Now, so Sam's born, and did you get that feeling and that dream and that hope that you thought you would? Did that dream come true after Sam was born into the world? Like, what's your journey like at this point? Did he satisfy what you wanted to accomplish in your heart?
I don't think kids are accomplishments. And I say that very specifically because I've been interviewing 1 billion people for my next book. And I've had to really, really think about parenting in a different way and education and wisdom and the next generation. And also I'm a college professor, so I know so many things about Gen Z which have schooled me. Like I really think of my students as my teachers. And I think about young people and I think, I'm in their lives temporarily as a steward for the part that I could be useful. And that's it, including your own kid.
One of your students, former students, is in the front row right there. Lauren, raise your hand.
Oh, I didn't realize you were here, Lauren. Yeah, see what I mean? Like I'm a moron.
You are not, but whatever, hey, you are, okay, so let's get back. So Sam is born. Did you raise him Christian? Did you raise him Presbyterian? Like, what's the journey like there? Because when you want your kids to know the Lord and the good word, it's like, oh, do we have to go to church, right? Or did Sam go to church is what I'm asking when he was born?
He's still here.
So he never?
Well, when I was growing up, we didn't get this. It's funny because although my mother laid down the law to my dad before they were married, my father really believes. I should have said that, I'm sorry. My father really believes. And I really love church. And the church that I love in my mind is very utopian. And it doesn't even make any sense because sometimes I'm incredibly private at church. And I think part of it's because I don't want to disappoint people. And it's not imposter syndrome. I just feel like I'm always falling short of everything I'm supposed to do. And now in my life, I get asked so many things. I just want to pass out. But even as a young person, I always think when I go to church, I go to worship God and praise God. And this is going to sound really strange, but I really like God.
That doesn't sound strange at
It's
all.
not, it's not like just love, it's like, I like God. And it's almost like visiting. So when I think about church, like that's all I really want to do for the hour and 15 minutes. And you'll almost never see me at coffee hour because I'm so, like small talk makes me kind of crazy. Because I'm always, and this is where I'm a socially awkward person. I don't know how not to ask, like you're so good at this. Like, I don't know how not to ask the question that I want to ask.
Why do you have to not ask the question you want to ask?
Because I think contextually it's inappropriate sometimes.
Can you give me an example? What do you want to ask me?
Like I just said.
What do you want to ask my sister, who by the way, got into Bronx Science, as you know, and I did not. St. Francis Prep, and my best friend from 15 years old is in the front row. So, but God puts you in the school and the place and the job and wherever you're supposed to be. All right, so like, give me an example. What do you want to ask? Can you think of one? If not, we'll pass. You could say.
No, it's like recently a friend of mine contacted me from law school, and I hadn't talked to her in 2 or 3 decades, and she DM'd me on Instagram, and I don't read all my messages because I can't. And she told me she had cancer. And lately, everybody I know has been having some very serious health crisis. And I think it's because I'm in my 50s and 2 of my college roommates have died. So, it's not like I had that many college roommates, right? I was in college only for 4 years, right?
Was it of cancer?
Yes. So, and then another friend of mine right now just finished surgery with cancer. So when somebody contacted me and I thought, oh, I want to ask Susan all these questions, and then I realized, well, you haven't seen this person in several. So, and I've been in therapy enough. I guess I've had therapy for over 2 decades. So at this point, I know that what makes me very good at what I do as a writer is not necessarily appropriate for every situation.
But if your question comes from the heart, and you have a good heart, is it inappropriate?
Yes, it is. Because some people don't want to talk about things, and I think it's okay. I think it's really, really okay if you don't talk about it. And also, maybe it's none of my business. And also, it's tricky because I'm a writer, so people kind of think, "Are you going to use me as material?" And I'm not. I'm not.
I hear you. I get that. Yeah.
Like if I'm going to ask you for an interview for work, I always tell you. I always get consent. Everything is very, very transparent. But not all writers believe this. So you should be careful who you talk to. You should be careful how you're quoted. And
that's a very good point. That's an excellent point. Yes, yes.
Right, people can misquote you. I've been misquoted, and it's been very, very, really, really hard for me because I think, I've even had serious situations with news where I've given consent. I've actually said, please don't do X, Y, Z. And they've done exactly X, Y, Z. And then I think, oh, I really thought he was a nice person. And maybe he was, and maybe his producer made him, you know what I mean? Like there are all these things that I know at this point because I've lived my life in a different way that sometimes it's out of their control. And then I think, okay, well, maybe he is a nice person, but then maybe he really needed a job, and maybe I shouldn't have said, this is where I kind of come back and go, part of it's my social awkwardness, and because I really believe in telling the truth. And another part of my problem is that I know a lot of people can't control why they need to profit from what I say. So, right?
I totally understand.
I know you know, because you're a public person, you get it, and you're a very public person. I'm like a public person in a niche planet.
Well, I will say this. When you're a public person like yourself, you don't know how public you really are.
No.
You don't, because you're not in anyone's mind. Like, Lauren looks to you like,
or
you don't
not.
know that.
Somebody could have dragged her. It's possible. And it would be okay. It would be okay. And you can't walk around thinking that you're important because then you'd be a jerk. So it's easier for me to walk around thinking nobody cares and that's the way it should be, because you have your own lives to lead. And the only time I feel terrible is when, and my publisher's actually here, Brian's here, I remember when my first book came out in 2007, they sent me out to a little tiny book tour and nobody came. And that was mortifying.
Brian, could you get more marketing dollars on that? Pronto!
No, this is because I was a debut writer. So then I remember thinking, and there's a reason why you want to send authors out, and now I understand why they do. But at the time I'm thinking, oh, my hotel costs $260. I looked it up. Because I felt terrible, and I was like, oh, my flight, and I was sitting in the middle of an economy in the back somewhere, but I thought, oh, that flight costs $400, and I have to sell X number of books to earn that money back to my publisher. Like, I was actually thinking like this, and that's when I thought, oh, I'll get on social media because I have to fill a bookstore.
Do you ever talk to God?
I talk to God every day.
And does he ever give, and how has he, what does he say? How much, because you mentioned you've been in therapy for how many years?
Well, I'm not in therapy right now. I just go for top-ups. That's actually a term. But I've had therapy for over 2 decades. And I really recommend it. It's the smartest thing I've ever done. One of the smartest things I've ever done.
So you talk to God every day. How has he helped you, navigate? You have a lot going on in your head.
Can you tell?
Like you described Chris as calm. Does talking to God calm you, but do you always catch yourself trying to be you and do what you feel is right and have to back up a little bit? Like, oh, sorry God, I thought I knew better. I gotta stay in alignment with you.
Oh, I guess I don't talk like that.
Tell me about how you talk to God.
Well, I read God's word 6 days a week as part of my work. So part of it is that I am deeply engaged with the Bible, deeply, almost like to the point where it's odd.
Wait, describe that. You said you read the Bible 6 days a week as part of your work.
As part of my work, as a writer, as a fiction writer.
Why?
Well, I read that Willie Cather did this. So when I first quit being a lawyer, I used to read the Wall Street Journal, the FT, and the New York Times. And it was not making me write very good fiction.
So, how?
It didn't. It really ruined it.
How do you go about picking, so you read that Willa Cather did it. How do you go about picking what you're going to read that day? And why is it only 6 days a week that you do it? Because you're here on Sundays?
Because of Sabbath. No, I'm teasing you. That's actually the reason. But 6 days a week I work. I work really hard. And what I do before I begin my work is, because Willa Cather read a chapter every day, I thought, well, whatever Willa Cather's doing, sign me up. And then I was reading my little confirmation Bible, which I got when I was a kid. It was so cute. It's literally inscribed from my pastor Sorg to me. But then my eyes got bad because I'm older. So then I bought an NIV study Bible. It's a New International Version study Bible. And then I realized that there are all these commentaries below the Bible. So what was taking me 10 minutes to do, kind of like, and I didn't understand most of it. I mean, I don't know if you guys do, but I mean, now I really know. But I would read the chapter, and then I thought, because I had the commentaries, I'll read the commentaries. And then I still didn't really understand a lot of it. So then I would read the chapter, I would read the commentaries, and then I would read the chapter again. And then it was taking me longer. Like, it would take me much longer. But then I also noticed that I was learning about geography and history and military strategy, craftsmanship, and storytelling. And above all, I was thinking about the personality of God as the author of the world. And it changed me. And now, you can't pay me enough money to stop. And whenever people ask me, well, what is this bizarre little thing that you do with the Bible? and I tell them, and it's odd because I get asked this question as if I do the Ouija board or something. Like, people think it's so weird what I do, because in my world as a fiction writer, especially because in kind of like a literary circle, it is odd what I do. And I, at this point, I don't really care. But.
How do you go about picking, like tomorrow morning, you're going to read?
Oh, I'm sorry, honey. I forgot.
No, it's okay. No, I love everything. Don't go with it. How do you go about picking what you're going to read tomorrow morning?
No, I read it sequentially.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So I've read it maybe 7 times now over as a loop.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was reading.
Where are you up to now?
I'm reading Isaiah right now, 27.
And what's speaking to you from Isaiah 27?
Well, I really feel so sorry for him. I do. I mean, all the prophets, you got to feel sorry for these dudes, because nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear all the doom, gloom, the sturm drying. Thank you. Oh, no, I good. And I can't imagine having to tell people and kings, you're so done. like, you're toast, and you deserve it. And most of you aren't going to make it.
Truth hurts?
Yeah, but if you think about it, because I'm not thinking I'm Isaiah, and I'm not thinking I'm the Israelites, and I'm not thinking that I'm the Babylonians. I'm always thinking, well, gosh, what does it have? I'm thinking sometimes I'm the tree that's going to get burned. And I think that's one of the coolest things about being a fiction writer for me, is that I don't think of myself in the story as a protagonist. Very often when you're reading, the reading experience is that you identify with the protagonist. As the writer of the story, I'm not thinking just about the protagonist. I'm thinking about the furniture too. I'm thinking about the herringbone of your jacket with the stripe. I'm thinking about this microphone. And it's important. And I'm thinking about the temperature of the room, what people smell like. And so when I read the Bible, I kind of think this is such an incredibly interesting work, because, so as literature, as text, and I think whoever wrote this was really good at what they're writing. And when I talk like that, it makes people really nervous, especially people who don't like the Bible or Christians. And I understand if people don't like the Bible or if they don't like Christians. I think that our history as Christians and Bible readers is bad.
What do you mean? I was just
I think that we're pretty awful as a human, as a species.
Humans?
Yeah.
Every human?
Yeah. No, all of us. No, we all have the capacity, and we're kind of rotten.
Well, yeah, that's what God says. I mean, we were born into sin.
I mean, I think we're, and at the same time, the irony is that we're saved, right? So we're perfectly loved and perfectly deplorable. It's both. And I think that coexistence really allows me to make books. Because I love that. I love this possibility that I could be deplorable and also deeply loved.
Is that what you're trying to do what are you working on now?
American Hagwon, which is the 3rd book of the trilogy, The Koreans. So I'm writing about the diaspora, which is, by the way, again, going back to Isaiah. Diaspora is a Greek word, and it is a word that is specific to the Bible. So this word is used endlessly around the world right now. It's very popular. People like to talk about diasporic people. But you can't really talk about diaspora without understanding the Old Testament and judgment. And when we think about this idea of remnant, who gets left behind after all this judgment, all the fire and judgment, after all the trees are gone, after all the mountains are moved, after the water swallows everybody up, who survives? And if that's us, why? Why are we saved? And I think for me, when I think about my next book, because I'm writing about diaspora, I think, well, where does education fit in? So I'm writing about Korean people because I'm Korean, I'm interested in Korean people, but I'm really, really interested in this. Well, I initially thought education, and then I realized, no, I'm really writing about wisdom. At my age, that's all I care about. Like, how do you live life skillfully? And then I think, well, it turns out that from all my research, people really use education and wisdom as a form of status. So now I'm realizing, like, oh, I'm writing about status, and that's very uncomfortable. See, I made it inappropriate.
No, you didn't. Because I'm trying, no. I mean, there's so much there, but I do want to like go through timeline. So 12 years to write your first book. And then Pachinko, how long did it take to write?
It's another 10.
Another 10. Okay. Did you ever think of throwing in the towel at any point on either book?
I could leave right now. Yeah. Don't tell Brian.
What's your deadline for this third one?
Well, I had to have it revised. It was due in August, and I just asked for a 2-year extension.
Because you're successful, they gave it to you. Yeah?
Well,
you wouldn't have gone if you were the first, if it was your first book.
No, I didn't even have a contract or an agent for both my books. So I've always worked on this sort of premise that this project is important, it is worth my attention and my love and everything that I have. And I'm very proud of my books. I don't know if you're allowed to be, but I am. Like, I'm not one of these like self-deprecating. Like, there are things I really can't do. I can't drive, can't ride a bicycle. Like, there's something wrong with me. But I love my work, I love my writing. I think I'm a brilliant reader. So all those things, fine. I'm using it to create this thing. But I'm not going to send out a book that I don't like, that I think is half-baked. And yeah.
When did you start teaching? How does that figure into, okay, 12 years to write the first book, 10 years to write the second. When did you start teaching and why?
Well,
and what did you start teaching and where? Tell us all.
Yeah. They're like, we want to go home.
I know. How much time do I have left? Because I could talk forever. I have 10 minutes left. Oh,
Jamie's going to be like, get off the stage. I live near the Apollo Theater, and I always keep thinking about that cane where they drag people off. What happened was, when my book was published in 2017, my second book, that day my husband lost his job. And I remember thinking, oh, we have to get health insurance, because in America, if you don't have a job, you don't have health insurance. So I thought, oh, I know a lot about writing, so I should teach writing. And I tried to get a job, and I couldn't, and people were so mean. And this is after I was a National Book Award finalist. They're like, well, you don't have a terminal degree. And for those of you who don't know, that means that I didn't have a degree that was in line with the thing that I was supposed to be teaching. So I was a history major, I went to law school, so I wasn't even an English major with a PhD in English, or even an MFA.
Because you wanted to teach what?
Well, I knew I could teach writing, and I am a good writing teacher.
Who turned you down? This is where I get Altoona, Pennsylvania. Go ahead. Sorry, that's my Larry King. You don't have to say, because I family business.
No, I'm not going to say, but I have to tell you that one school, and this is where I really have to work on forgiveness, they were so mean. They were so mean. And then a year later, they reached out and said, could I teach for them again? And
wait a minute, teach for them again. They were so mean, like you taught there.
No, I didn't teach. So
your rejection was mean?
A very kind person said, hey, Min Jin needs a gig. And I really just wanted health insurance at that point, right? Because America, the neoliberal attitude to tying work and healthcare is so evil, truly. I mean, advanced economies and democracies around the world do not have this. Only us, pure capitalists. So I go to this school for the interview, and here, see, this is where I need to work on forgiveness, but I'm just going to share this with you because I'm still salty about it. She said to me, and how did you get to my desk? And
let's pray for her.
I know, let's pray. No, let's pray for me, because because I think in Deuteronomy it says, vengeance shall be mine, saith the Lord. But
Min is like revenge stew.
I know, it's terrible. It was terrible. And I remember thinking that it was my first job interview and I was in my mid-40s. And I hadn't been to a job interview in a very long time. And I walked out of the building and I just sobbed, thinking I did everything wrong, like none of it matters, I can't get a job, I can't provide health insurance to my family, because Chris had been carrying me for 20-something years. I was like, this is my turn, I should be able to do something. And then a year later, they contacted me and said, oh, do you want to work? And I remember thinking, like, for that salary? I don't think so. Because I had something else, but anyway.
All right, so she was mean, you didn't get the job there. And then a year later, she asked you to come teach. What was that? What was that part? You said?
Yeah, and then I just and the offer was just kind of, I'm much better compensated now.
Okay, so then who did give you your first teaching job?
In a real way, Amherst College. The president of the college saw me do a class, and she's like, you're really great, and she made a great offer, and I was like, yes. And my loyalty to, and since then I've been asked by every major whatever, and I've been loyal to Amherst primarily because they're loyal to me.
Where did the president of Amherst see you teach a class?
I gave a lecture because they asked me to give a master class to a bunch of students, and I guess my students really liked it. I mean, for that day, for that hour, or whatever.
And that's what year you got this job, teaching writing at Amherst?
I think like 5 years ago.
And you're still there now?
I am, but I don't know how much longer I can do it.
Because?
Because it's really hard to grade 120 papers.
And while you're trying to write a book.
Yeah.
This book might take 24 years if you keep teaching.
So that's my only problem is that, and I probably shouldn't, there's a lot of ways you can cut corners, but I don't know how to cut corners. And I love my students. They're so, so good.
You find teaching more fulfilling than publishing a book?
No.
Why?
Because they're different things. And I think it's vanity to think that I can make that kind of, I mean, I know what they give me. I don't know what I give them. Right? Like, I know what they give me. They give me love and nourishment and ideas, and I know all the cool music.
Yeah, right. You know
Right?
the
I
cool,
mean, like,
she said, I know all the cool
I
music.
feel really connected to youth, and I feel very strongly to be an advocate. Also, I think it's also helped me to understand parenting better, because like when you have one kid, Sam could break a fingernail and I'm thinking, crisis. And then now I have 31 students and I realize like, oh, he was a fingernail. It's like you can see the perspective. So I think that in a way, if you are a teacher, especially if you're a teacher with a kid, the benefit for being a parent is actually quite high.
My final question, because you need me to wrap, right, Jamie, is what do you hope to accomplish when you write a book, what do you want readers to take away from it? And when you're teaching a class, well, first with the book, what do you want readers to get from your fiction?
I think I want them to feel like I saw them and I love them. That sounds so strange, but I interview so many people to write my work. And I do it because I write these very peopled novels. There's a lot of people in them. And all these people who give me their time and energy and love, I want to honor them. I want to honor it emotionally in an accurate way. I want it to really feel true. The conceit of fiction is that it's not true, but you have to believe that it's true. So I'm always dancing on this knife's edge. And the thing that I really do want from my readers is what I get as a reader myself. I know I'm a better reader than anything that I do because I love reading so much. And when I feel seen by an author, it is a kind of gift that I don't know how to pay back. And I would love to give that to my reader.
You want to touch their heart.
I want to give them this gift that I've been given thousands of times.
Do you want them to relate to at least someone in there? Or this story?
I guess I want them to like walk away from the book feeling more love for the world, more love for themselves. Like I don't think it's possible to give love unless you receive love. And for me, like I always make this joke because it's kind of funny, and poor Brian's in the audience, but when I sell a paperback, I make like $1.10. So I think it's kind of funny to me that people think, oh, you write books to make money. I'm like, no, I could make coffee and make more money. I can. I mean, it's different. Like I'm doing fine. It's not that. But that's not why people become writers. That's not why people write books. And clearly, if I'm taking this long, if you amortize what I make per day, it's stupid. And yet, I know that my books have affected people. I have met tens of thousands of readers. I mean, I actually have millions of readers. And it's such a gift to know that this thing that you believed in blindly, I was blindly following this very dark road and all the wilderness. And I think, well, all these people believed in me. All these books have nourished me. Can I nourish somebody back? That symbiosis of reader and writer, which I participate in as a reader first, I feel very lucky to be in that relationship.
And is that the same thing you want to provide for your students, nourishment? What do you hope to accomplish like in the classroom? And that's the last question, I promise.
I was telling Warner this earlier, that because he had said a while back that if you could distill your sermons, all your sermons into one thesis, it would be for him to tell you, you aren't enough. And I remember thinking recently, I was with my students, and I could see how beautiful they are, but they couldn't. And I thought, gosh, like I'm gonna pull my Warner. And I don't even really know Warner. I mean, like, I might have talked to him like once or twice because I'm like hysterically private. And I said to my students, like, your work is enough now. It's a matter of you deciding to be truly fully you. Because it takes courage to be fully you. Because the world, ever since you're little, tells you you have to put yourself in a box, wear this armor, talk this way, do this, do that, and you can't really be you. So then in a way, when you're born, you're probably at your most glorious, when you're most you. And even if you're successful in the world, in a way, you're not really you. So my students, I feel like when they're 19, 20, I feel like I can still touch them. Please be you.
Min Jin Lee, thank you.